Hi, I'm Dan Gonzalez with the Aerometer Company. The Aerometer Company has been building products since 1951 that help you optimize your irrigation systems. Congratulations on taking this next step on becoming a better installer and manager of water. While you view these videos, fill in your workbook, take the test at the end, and then put your check and the test in the mail and send them to the Aerometer Company. We'll send you your certificate right away. Good luck, and thanks again. In this video, we will focus on the products most often specified by irrigation designers and consultants. These will be the products you're most likely to see when you're bidding on plans. These products are the watermark family of products. They provide you with the ability to measure and control soil moisture. These products allow you to do it more precisely than your human senses would allow. For over 10 years, these products have been used worldwide in a wide variety of irrigation applications. The heart of the watermark family of products is the watermark sensor. When the soil is wet, more water enters the sensor. As the soil dries out, water is removed from the sensor. When you first start to use a meter, press the read switch once. This will turn the meter on. You will then see two dashed lines. This means the meter is ready to read. The dashed lines have now gone off. This is the battery saving feature. To turn it back on, you'd press read. And when you see the two dashed lines, if you want to read the sensor, press it again while the two dashed lines are still on the screen. In this case, the reading is 199. The meter clips are not touching, so the meter sees infinite resistance. I will now demonstrate how to take readings of a watermark sensor with the soil moisture meter. We are going to put the sensor in the water and attach the meter clips to the sensor. And we're going to turn on the meter by pressing once and pressing again. Right now the water has not reached the electrode chamber and it's still reading dry. What's happening is the water is going to be coming inside the bottom of the sensor, moving up through and past a gypsum tablet and into the electrode chamber, where the moisture is going to be read by two electrodes. As you can see, the water has already reached the electrodes and it's gone to zero. The units of measurement used by the watermark soil moisture meter are centibars. 199 centibars is roughly equal to 30 psi. The pressure gauge reads positive pressure. The watermark soil moisture meter reads negative pressure, also known as tension, suction, or vacuum. The watermark electronic module is like a thermostat for your landscape. The sensor location is like the location of the thermostat in your heating and air conditioning system at home. The setting determines when your controller will irrigate by checking soil moisture levels at the beginning of each irrigation cycle, and either allowing them to come on and irrigate or by breaking the common wire and stopping irrigation when the soil is too moist. The watermark soil moisture control system or 4-zone panel, works much the same way as the watermark electronic module. The difference is this panel has 4 different zones of control. Jumper wires from this panel go to the irrigation controller. Hi, this is Dan Gonzalez with the Aerometer Company. Today we're on site with S&S Landscape. We're going to be installing a 4-zone control panel, and the first set of sensors we're going to install is in the shady turf area. Then we'll install a set in the shady shrub areas. The third set will be in the sunny turf areas, and the fourth set will be into the sunny shrub area. The turf areas have spray head irrigation, and the shrub areas have tech line subsurface drip irrigation. After we install the sensing locations, we're going to install the control panel, wire it, and prepare it for operation. In this particular irrigation system, you'll notice that there's an MS3 and MS4. These indicate where the moisture sensors should be placed. During mainline construction and when you're running wire should be stubbed to these locations in a 6-inch Econo valve box. Or stub the 2 wires into a valve box that is near the sensor location. 2 wires are required for every sensor location. Be sure to pull 2 wires to each location during mainline construction. In determining the location of the sensors, usually the southwest side of the landscape gets the hottest. You want to look for the areas that are going to dry out first. Here we're on the southwest side, and we also have a berm. This system's been left off just for a couple of days, and you can already see the results of the drying of the turf grass here. On the other hand, you would not want to put the moisture sensor in a swale, a drainage swale like the one behind me. That area is going to stay wet most of the time, and because of that, the sensor would not call for water when the rest of the landscape needed it, and it would be inadvisable to put one there. Josh is going to go ahead and open up the sensors now and place them in water. You always want to install a wet sensor. The sensors, once installed, will then dry down to the level of soil moisture in the surrounding soil. At that point, you'll begin to get accurate readings. If time permits, it's best to do this a day or 2 before installation, allowing them to soak and dry several times. This will give you the highest accuracy reading. However, just soaking them even for a few minutes prior to installation will be adequate. However, you would not want to use the readings if you were reading them with a meter or setting up your control panel for at least several days after 2 or 3 irrigations have occurred. The 4-zone panel comes complete with 8 sensors. As you can see, the air that's inside the sensor is bubbling up to the surface of the water as the sensors are placed in a submerged position. We've picked our location for the shade area turf sensors. We've opened a trench, and we're going to be installing the 5-foot sensor leads in the valve box, the sensor several feet away, and we'll make our splice in this close valve box. That way we're assuring that we know where all the splices are underground. Opening up a V-trench is all that's really necessary, although if you like, conduit can be installed for a more safe installation if rodents or further construction digging is anticipated. Now that the V-trench is open, we're going to install the sensors. We open the valve box and provide access between the trench and the valve box for the wires. This can be done by going under the valve box or drilling through it. Another way to provide access is to use an installing tool to go down next to the valve box and provide a wire path to go down underneath. Now that our wires are clean into the valve box, we know we've got enough wire to work with, and when we install the sensors, we don't have to worry about the wires being too short. Now that the sensors and the wire lengths are correct for our valve box installation, we're going to go ahead and install the sensors. All you need is a 7/8" rod, and what we're going to do in this turf area is install our first sensor at about 4 inches, and then we're going to make a second hole at about 45 degrees down closer to the bottom, where we're going to install our second sensor at about 8 inches. The soil is moist here, otherwise I could use a hammer, or in tough, deep installations we would use our slide hammer installing tool. Once the holes are open, then the sensors can be placed inside, and a snug fit is required. You can either use the installing tool, or you can install by using a class 315 PVC, which inside diameter is the same as the outside collar of the sensor. Pressing them snugly, and then releasing. Now we have a 4-inch and an 8-inch installed sensor in the ground. We would then take a little bit of dirt, compact our holes to make sure that there's no pathway for water to get back to the sensor, and now we simply backfill the hole and reestablish the sod. You've already stubbed out your 2 wires into a 6-inch valve box, all the way back to wherever your watermark or 4-zone control panel is. At this point, you're ready to install your sensors once the landscape is installed. We'll put 2 wires from our sensors back into the valve box, install our sensors, and then wire them. The first thing we're going to do is snip off the extra leads. We won't be needing those. Off both sensors. Then we're going to strip them. Of course, in your normal installation, this needs to be done with a watertight connector. But for purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to place the wires together in the appropriate place. Now we have both sensor wires exposed. We tie one from each sensor together. This will allow the signal to go in series through both sensors. And then one wire from each of those sensors will be placed to the wires that are stubbed out in the box. Again, this would be done with watertight connectors. Once the watertight connectors are installed, these would be placed back in the box, and you're ready for the connections back at the 4-zone control panel or the watermark electronic module. The first step in installing the 4-zone control panel is to install the panel itself. After placing the panel on the center screw, the bottom screws are installed to stabilize the panel. The second step in installing the watermark soil moisture control system is to wire the moisture sensors to the control panel. Each moisture sensor control area has its own pair of sensors, a moisture sensing location. Each location requires 2 wires from the field sensors to the moisture control panel. These wires should be clearly labeled, Area 1 sensors, Area 2 sensors, and so on, to facilitate final hookup. The sensor wires are connected to the 2 green wires marked sensor on the moisture control panel for the appropriate area or valve group being maintained. In this particular case, we have 4 sets of wires, pairs of wires coming into the box. The white and black are the first area, the yellow and red are the second area, the blue and green are the third area, and the brown and orange are the fourth area. These are simply wire netted together, one to each of the appropriate area green wires. And wire nuts put on the moisture control panel comes with 12 or 24 jumper wires, depending on the model ordered, WFZ12 or WFZ24. These wires are used to connect the moisture control panel to the irrigation controller valve terminal strip. A jumper wire is connected from each valve to the appropriate moisture control area black wire. The black end of the jumper wire must be connected to the black moisture control wire labeled station. The next step in installing the panel is to connect the black panel station wire to the jumper wires that will go to the terminal strip of the controller. In this case, Area 1 will have 3 valves that are similar in water requirements, and they'll be installed here to Area 1. Notice again that the black wire is connected to the black end of the jumper wire. We will repeat this procedure for all 4 areas and then wire the common wire through the panel. After completing the wiring of all 4 zone station wires from the panel to the appropriate number of valve wires, we will go ahead now and run the common wire through the panel. This gives the panel the ability to terminate irrigation when it's too wet in any of the 4 zones. First, we're going to connect a common white wire from the controller to the panel. Next, we'll go ahead and connect the panel to the common wire that goes out to the valves. We'll make this final connection in the controller enclosure. After all the wiring is complete, it's time to replace the cover. When that's complete, on a new landscape, it should be put in the manual position and closed. The last part of the wiring will be done inside the controller enclosure. First, we're going to remove the common wires. The common wires to the field now will be connected to the red wire from the control panel. Next, we take the white wire and put it back into the same place where the common wires were connected before. The last step in installing the wiring is to attach the jumper wires to the controller terminal strip. The jumper wires for area 1 on the moisture control panel are to go to valves 1, 2, and 3. We'll simply loosen those screws and attach these wires to the same location where valves 1, 2, and 3 are currently positioned. We'll continue to move through all the way through all the valves until all of those jumper wires are connected. Finally, we will reassemble the controller. In this section, we're going to learn how to install a watermark electronic module to override an entire irrigation controller. The first step in this process is to install the watermark electronic module. We're going to mount this right next to the controller . The next step, after installing the module on the wall, is to take two green wires that go out to the field sensors in the landscape and wire one side to each of the green wires from the watermark electronic module. This sensor location will be two sensors wired in series together. The next step is we're going to take the three wires you see here, red, black, and white, remove the excess insulation, and I'm going to put some jumpers on these, just regular wire, and we're going to move these into the irrigation controller right next door here and attach them. Just as you learned with the watermark control panel, the white wire is going to go onto the common connection on the terminal strip. The red wire will connect to the common wire going out to the valves, and in this case the black wire, since we're only having one zone of control for the whole controller, the black wire is going to go to the master valve. Every time the master valve comes on, which is any time irrigation will occur, whether there's a master valve on it or a pump start or not, then the controller will go ahead and interrogate the sensors, determine whether or not it's wetter or drier than the set point. If it's wetter, it will cut the common and not allow irrigation. If it's drier, it will allow it to operate normally. Next, we'll go ahead and secure these wires to the wall. Okay. Now we're going to extend these wires, the red, black, and white, over into the irrigation control wire, into the controller, and we'll install it from there. I'm now going to place the black wire on the master valve. Every time the controller comes on, the master valve activates. This coming on will trigger the WIM, turn it on, have it look at the sensors to determine whether it's too wet or too dry to irrigate, and then either open or close the common. The next step will be to remove the common wires and connect them to the red wire. Then the white wire that we brought in will be installed at the common position. The white wire from the WIM is then tightened down. Finally, we will reassemble the controller. If the landscape is not established yet, we'll want to set the watermark electronic module in the off position. This will allow irrigation to occur normally. Once you're ready to become an irrigation manager with the watermark or 4-zone control panel, we have another training video specifically for that.